Joined now in Studio 3 by Linda Champion, Democratic candidate for Suffolk County DA. She's running in the Democratic primary September 1st, as is Rachel Rollins, former DA, challenging incumbent DA Kevin Hayden. Champion ran for the open seat contest in 2018. That was the election that Rollins ultimately won. We recently spoke with Hayden and Rollins. You can find Shirley Leung in my interview with Rachel Rollins, as well as Margery and mine with Kevin Hayden on the GBH YouTube page, youtube.com/GBH News. And all three candidates, this matters a lot, will participate in a candidates forum tonight starting at 6 at Hibernian Hall in Roxbury. Linda, it's great to have you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you very, very much for coming in. So for people who may not know you, give us a little brief resume. What's your story?
So the story is I ran away from home at 17, landed in Boston, found myself homeless, and thankfully I met some amazing women in the city of Boston who looked out for me. I was able to secure subsidized housing on St. Paul Street, and through many student loans, was able to get myself an education, finish college, finish law school. I started my LLM and was unable to complete that because by that time I'd started a family.
Okay, and where was home? Where'd you come from?
So my military brat, my father served in the Vietnam War. He met my mom during the Vietnam War. My mom moved to this country when she was 21 and she didn't speak English. She was not equipped, nor was she ready to be in America in the early 70s, experiencing the type of racism that she encountered carrying around black children.
Yeah, she's Korean. She was a Korean woman with a black baby.
Yes.
Yep.
So, Linda Champion, the two people you're running against are both have a lot more experience. Why are you the best candidate?
So I would argue that they don't have a lot more experience. I'm an attorney. I've practiced law for 25 years. Leaders come to me. Marty Walsh appointed me as a commissioner to the city of Boston. I served on the transition team for Governor Healy, as well as the Lieutenant Governor Driscoll. I served on the transition team for Diana DeZoglio. And the current district attorney also called me not once but twice to come to his administration. The second time I did accept, and I
Kevin Hayden, we're talking
correct,
about, obviously, yeah.
Correct, and I served under his administration as his legal counsel. So municipal and district court legal counsel for the district attorney's office. I'm a prosecutor. I did 2 tours there. I served under the Connolly administration, and there I worked as a juvenile court prosecutor, a district court prosecutor, a superior court prosecutor. I was tapped to go up to another administration by Deval Patrick and served the Commonwealth doing what I would call the black labor market cases, people who are injured on the job, working for unscrupulous employers, and I handled those cases for the Commonwealth.
So forget the, let me withdraw for the time being, the experiencing. Why are you the best candidate to have this show?
Well, I'm the best candidate because I feel like right now I'm the only candidate on the ballot with some form of integrity. I have
What does
two.
that mean?
It means that I have one person who's openly lied and is contrite in that, and I have another person who has yet to investigate who released the sexual assault records of 2 juveniles to the media, which is a crime.
Around
and
the
so,
Arroyo candidacy we're talking about.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so when sexual assault records are released, you have a duty to investigate. And if you fail to investigate because it served your purpose, I think that is problematic for me.
Well, yeah, but both candidates, Hayden and Rollins, we talked to about their ethical challenges. I read in the Dorchester Reporter, though, in 2009, you were publicly reprimanded by the Board of Bar Overseers for mishandling funds in a real estate transaction.
Yep.
So how should that weigh on voters' decision-making come September 1?
So the mishandling of funds is what brought me to the district attorney's office. It was a time when American Home Mortgage had gone bankrupt. I had conducted an American Home Mortgage transaction. Their wires were frozen by the Division of Banks, who had issued a cease and desist against American Home Mortgage. That information had not trickled into the market. And when I went to the district attorney's office for help, they said, well, sorry, they took your $500,000 and won't give it back to you, but you signed the check. And how often had I heard that from seniors coming in who had been scammed out of money? I didn't understand mortgage fraud. I didn't understand what had happened. And I started the process of trying to piece everything together. What the BBO also said is I worked diligently, very hard for over a year to make sure no one was hurt. And I used, in fact, my own money to make sure people were made whole. Thankfully, I had insurance, so the money was not lost. But it was a really serious time in American finance when banks were going bankrupt.
You know, are you wearing, what are you wearing on your left lapel?
So I'm wearing a pin that is from the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association, which evidences their endorsement of my candidacy.
Yeah, speaking of that, if I can, they were calling for another candidate to get in this race after there was an indictment of a Boston cop, Nicholas O'Malley, for the shooting and death of Stephenson King Jr. Where are you on the charging, which obviously Hayden did, and this big controversy about whether or not the video of this should be released to the public, which it hasn't been yet?
So the video should be released to the public because it's a policy issue. So when you deviate from policy, I think the public has a right to know and see what was so egregious in a video that warranted a deviation from policy. We understand that Mr. Stephenson King was killed and lost his life that day. An officer was arrested. But what was it about the response of that officer to that scene of a carjacking, of, in pursuit? What happened that warranted not presenting the evidence to the grand jury
Based
first?
on what you know, should he have been charged?
I haven't seen the tape, so based on what I know, I don't know if he should be charged. And that's another thing. He's now made this a talking point for every single person. But what he's also done is broken down the trust. The prosecutor, the district attorney, is the top cop. And when you're the top cop, you got to be able to work with the men and women who put on the uniform every day and respond to the scenes. They've responded to 17 homicide scenes. They've responded to scenes where they have firecrackers thrown at them. They've responded to scenes in one case where a firecracker was thrown, went behind their shield, and burned an officer's face. We just had someone convicted of smashing an officer's head into a windshield. So these are not easy jobs to have. And I think that if you're the top cop and you're asking these individuals to go out and help you fight crime, you have to let them know that you have good judgment and good integrity in carrying out your day-to-day
We're talking to
duties.
Linda Champion. She's a candidate in the Suffolk County DA primary on September 1.
I just want to know, too, for our listeners, where you're coming from if you do become the district attorney. Rachel Rollins was well known for her not prosecuting these low-level crimes, especially among young people, like shoplifting and so forth. There were 15 of them listed. Where are you on that? Would that be something you would continue?
So I think people are deserving of second chances and diversion, and I think that those things have to be done on a case-by-case basis. I'm not in agreement with having blanket lists spelled out or given to the public, even if you're going to create programs like service over sentences, or even if we're going to create more creative programs. Like, one of the things I would like to see is that we open up the Veterans Court, and we open the Veterans Court to include first responders, and that includes EMS.
What's the Veterans Court?
So Veterans Court is a court where if a person who has served finds themselves, and as you know, when they come back from different deployments, they could struggle with and suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. And when people struggle with trauma, and my father suffered from trauma. When he came back from the Vietnam War, one of the things he would do is lash out. We didn't have services then for soldiers. Now we have the ability to offer programming and services. One of the services that the district attorney's office offers is Veterans Court. We recognize your service. We recognize the trauma. We recognize that there could be triggers to that trauma. So we're going to bring you in and create a program that is right for you.
Can I get back to this thing for a second? You said you wouldn't do a blanket thing. This was my understanding of the Rollins plan was the presumption was non-prosecution, not that there would always be non-prosecution. And as you know, when there was a review of the record of this policy, it showed that it reduced recidivism dramatically. So why wasn't it a good idea exactly as she implemented it?
I don't know what record you're speaking of, because one of the things that we know to be true is once she issued that, officers stopped charging and they stopped arresting. And, even when you speak to officers and the store owner calls 5 times, they don't make an arrest until like the 5th or 10th time.
So do you question the study?
I absolutely question the study, but more importantly, it's what I see. I watched Walgreens walk out of Roxbury. I watched people protesting and begging them to stay. They had a choice. They do not have to stay, and they left. And what that did is it left all of my seniors in the community without access to a pharmacy, and they all don't have smartphones. They all don't have the ability to have a credit card. They need access to life-saving medication, and they have the right to be able to walk to their local pharmacy.
So it sounds like your position would be the presumption is that they would be prosecuted.
The presumption is always that you would be prosecuted. However, if you are deserving of diversion and a second chance, then that should be applied.
We're talking to Linda Champion.
You know, one of the big things we used to hear all the slogan all the time, what a difference a DA makes. It was a big ACLU was
ACLU
involved.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize that prosecutors have a tremendous power deciding whom to prosecute. Just talked about this with these diversionary cases. We've been watching this trial of a mother who killed her 3 kids, 5, 3, and 8 months old, Lindsay Clancy. Significant mental health problems. Some people say she had psychosis as well as just a postpartum depression. How would you handle a case like that? Is that someone that should be prosecuted for murder?
So the Lindsay Clancy case is interesting because one of the things I think we're learning more about and talking about now, which is great, is what women experience after they've given birth and the postpartum depression. Oftentimes we see people be dismissive. So I have an office that may not understand the things that women go through when they've given birth. I would really have to look at the evidence, and I'm hearing the evidence as it unravels for the first time. But when I hear someone going in and pleading for help and being prescribed 12 different medications, and then no one watching to see how that is impacting her, and her pleading for help, and her saying, I feel like I want to hurt myself, I feel like I want to hurt others, we have to do a better job, not only on the medical side, but we also have to do a better job on the legal side so that we are also staying in community and having these tough conversations. There's other cases like the Lindsay Clancy case where, for example, the young man who was shot and killed in Boston, where they find out that the ballistics tests come back and it's his own friend that's gun is the gun that actually has the bullet that kills him. And so how do you deal with these very complex things? Do we include the survivors, and do we give him more of a say, the ex-husband, or is it the ex-husband now? Yes, the ex-husband. More of a say in, these were your children, this was your wife, this was also your life. How do you think how should she be treated? And that goes more into and starts moving into at what point do we bring in restorative justice and use that as one of the lenses before we make charging decisions.
Linda Champion, only have time for one more thing. A case that Kevin Hayden's going to have to make a decision about imminently. Stephen Pina spent 28 years in jail for a murder that he says he didn't commit. The SJC, a week or so, state's highest court agreed with the lower court. You should get a new trial after evidence was presented that showed that there was no disclosure that one of the witnesses against Stephen had a psychiatric hospitalization, some DNA evidence, possibly even another suspect. We asked Hayden if he was going to pursue a new trial, or if he was going to dismiss this thing. He said he had made a decision, but that he had to speak to the family of the victims first. What would you do under these circumstances? New trial for Pina or dismiss the charges?
So first I would give it to the Convictions Integrity Review Unit to tell me where the evidence leads. If the evidence says that it is tainted, then you have to do the right thing and you have to dismiss the charges.
Based on what you know?
Based on what you know and what you have.
Based on what you know now.
Based on what I know, but and what I've heard in the media. But the reality is this: we have to go where the evidence leads us. The district attorney is not judge or jury of anyone. The evidence comes in. We have an obligation to review the evidence and present that evidence to a jury. If the evidence suggests that there is, that he committed the crime beyond a reasonable doubt, then we would go for a new trial.
No, but what I was asking quickly, I'm sorry, is based upon what you know, based upon reading and knowing this.
Based upon what I know,
yeah.
based upon what I know and the tainting of the evidence, I would dismiss the charges.
Linda Champion, good luck. Thank you so much for your time. I really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
and I appreciate the time.
Yeah,
Please
thank you
go
very
to
much
tonight's forum.
for coming in 6 o'clock tonight at Hibernian Hall in Roxbury. All the 3 candidates will be there, including Linda Champion, who's running in the Democratic primary for Suffolk County District Attorney. You can find interviews with Kevin Hayden and Rachel Rollins on our YouTube page. 6 o'clock tonight, Hibernian Hall. Thank you very much,
Thank
Linda
you.
Champion,
Thank you.
for coming in.